This is TLC to go.
Okay, let's unpack this. As health sciences faculty, you definitely know the feeling, right? This constant flood of information, new research, new teaching methods, all these resources. It's just a lot.
It really is. And trying to stay genuinely on top of it all, not just sort of aware, while you're juggling teaching, research, admin. I mean, it can feel pretty impossible sometimes.
Exactly. So what if there was a way to get the really valuable nuggets from key resources, but distilled and presented in a format you could actually use easily, maybe when you're running between the lab and a lecture or commuting?
Well, that exact challenge is pretty much the jumping off point for this really interesting project we're looking at today. It comes from the Teaching and Learning Center, the TLC.
Right, the TLC.
And they're using AI, quite cleverly actually, to take all those great resources they already have and make them way more accessible for a faculty like you.
Yeah, the TLC has built up this amazing collection, practical guides, teaching tips, stuff that's genuinely useful for academic life. But like you said, finding time to sit and read it all, that's the bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
So they came up with this project, TLC to go. And the idea is, well, it seems simple but powerful. Use AI to turn those written resources into short, listenable audio snippets, almost like mini deep dives you can listen to anywhere.
And the specific AI they're using for this is a tool from Google called Notebook LM. The TLC to Go project really hones in on one feature inside it called the audio overview.
Audio overview, okay.
Yeah, the whole point is bridging that gap, from the static text on a page to something dynamic you can listen to, getting that knowledge out there wherever you happen to be.
Got it. So for this deep dive, our mission is basically threefold. First, understand the tool itself, this Notebook LM. What is it? What can it do?
Right.
Second, really focus on that audio overview feature, since that's the core of the TLC project.
Mm-hmm.
And third, walk through the exact steps, the workflow that the TLC uses to make these TLC to Go episodes. And then crucially, pivot to how you, listening right now, might use this tool or something like it with your own stuff, your own sources for your work.
Absolutely. Because to really get the project, you need to get the tool first. So let's start there. Notebook LM, what's it actually designed for?
Okay, yeah, let's get into that. So Notebook LM is, as you said, a Google AI tool. And its core job seems to be acting like a smart assistant for your own documents and sources.
Think of it like a personalized research buddy, but one that only knows what you teach it.
Yeah.
Its main function is letting you upload different kinds of sources, things like text docs, PDFs, even audio transcripts apparently, or links to videos like from YouTube. You bring all that into one digital space they call a notebook.
And the source material mentioned, you can put quite a few sources in there, right? Like up to 50.
Yeah, 50 different sources in one notebook, which, is pretty substantial if you're trying to consolidate info for a big project or a course.
50 sources. Wow, that sounds like a seriously powerful way to manage information, especially maybe for literature reviews or pulling together course readings. So once you've got your sources in there, what does Notebook LM actually do with them?
Well, that's where the AI part comes in. Based only on the stuff you've put in that notebook, Notebook LM can generate different kinds of outputs for you.
Okay.
It automatically gives you a quick summary of everything you've uploaded. But it can also go deeper, synthesize across your sources. It can create things like briefing documents, study guides.
Study guides. Interesting.
Yeah, or lists of FAQs, even timelines if the content has chronological information.
Hold on. So if I upload, say, a dozen research papers for a review I'm writing, it could potentially spit out a summary of the key findings across all of them? Or maybe a briefing doc pulling out the main arguments? That sounds like it could save a ton of time.
Exactly that. Or think about teaching prep. You upload your course readings, maybe some lecture notes. You could ask it to generate a study guide that focuses on specific concepts you want students to grasp. Or an FAQ list based on questions students might have, pulled right from the text.
Wow.
And beyond those generated documents, there's also this interactive chat window. It's like other AI chat tools. But, and this is key, it only answers based on your uploaded documents.
Right, so it's not just pulling answers from the whole internet.
No, it stays within the bounds of the knowledge you provided. So you can ask it questions about your sources, ask it to clarify points, connect ideas between different documents in your notebook. It's all grounded.
That grounding is huge for academic work, isn't it? Where you need to know exactly where the information is coming from and how do you actually get access to this tool? Is it complicated?
Nope. Pretty standard. You just need a regular Google account to use it. Access it through their platform.
Okay, simple enough. Now, those features like briefing docs and the chat sound really useful on their own, but the TLC to Go project, they specifically focus on just one thing, this audio overview.
Right. That's the engine for these on-the-go summaries.
So can you describe what that audio overview feature actually produces? What do you get?
Sure. So the audio overview takes the sources in your notebook, all that text, and it generates a short audio summary. And the output format is interesting. It sounds like a conversation.
Conversation.
Yeah, like two AI hosts discussing the main points or topics from the sources you fed it.
And I think the source mentioned it even defaults to calling the output a deep dive, which,
Feels kind of appropriate for what we do here. Yes, it does. But what makes it really flexible, both for TLC and potentially for you, is the customization.
Okay. So you're not just stuck with whatever it decides to generate first.
No, exactly. Before you hit generate, there's a prompt interface, a box where you can give it instructions to guide the output.
Customization is always good with AI. What kind of things can you control with that prompt?
Quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
You can tell it the target audience, which is obviously vital. For TLC, they set it to health sciences faculty.
Right.
You can specify what elements from the source you want to focus on. Like, should it be a general overview? Should it highlight practical tips? Point out resources mentioned in the text?
Okay. So you can direct its attention.
Yeah. And you can define the tone, casual but professional, for instance. And importantly, the desired length. You can aim for something like, say, 10 to 15 minutes.
So you're basically giving the AI a director's brief. Synthesize this material, make it sound like this, for this audience, focus on these things, and keep it around this long.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Set those parameters, hit generate, and then what comes out?
The output is an audio file. You get a couple of options for handling it. You can download it directly as a .wav file.
Okay, standard audio format, useful for editing.
Right. If you plan to do anything else with it externally, or Notebook LM can give you a public link to the audio, but there's a small catch noted in the source.
Yes, the Google account thing.
Exactly. Anyone who wants to listen using that link needs to be logged into their own Google account to access it.
Good detail to know. Okay, and what if the first attempt isn't quite right? Can you try again?
You can. You can generate the audio overview multiple times. But the source does mention a limitation, at least on the free plan they were likely using.
What's that?
You're limited to, I think, 3 audio overview generations per day per notebook.
3 a day. Okay.
And another little quirk mentioned is that only the last audio overview you generated stays kind of visible and attached directly within that notebook's interface in the tool. If you generate a new one, the previous one sort of disappears from view there.
Okay. So you want to download the ones you like right away, probably.
Seems like a good idea, yeah. Okay, so that gives us a really good handle on Notebook LM itself, and specifically this audio overview feature. Now let's walk through the actual process the TLC documented for making these TLC to Go episodes. They seem to have a pretty clear workflow. How does it kick off?
Well, it starts logically enough with actually using the tool we just talked about to generate the audio.
Right. Step 1, generate. How do they start that?
They begin with a link to the specific TLC resource page they want to turn into audio. They take that URL and add it as a source into a brand new notebook in Notebook LM. Once the tool ingests the content from that link, they go to the audio overview section, which apparently shows up on the right side of the screen.
And this is where the human direction comes in, using that customization prompt we discussed.
Exactly. They hit the Customize button there, which opens up the prompt box. And based on what's on that TLC page, they type in specific instructions.
Like what?
Well, they reiterate things like, make sure this is aimed at health sciences faculty, focus on the main topic, pull out practical teaching tips, mention the resources, keep the tone casual but professional, aim for 10-15 minutes.
So really reinforcing those parameters.
Yeah, and they also add specific instructions, like telling the AI to briefly introduce the TLC itself, but without contact info, and to end the audio with an invitation to check out other deep dives.
So they're programming in the standard intro and outro framing for their series right into the AI prompt. Clever. What happens after they've written that prompt?
They just click generate. And the source says this part, the actual AI processing and audio creation, is surprisingly quick. Usually takes somewhere between, say, 2 and 5 minutes.
2 to 5 minutes to generate a custom 10-15 minute audio summary. That's pretty fast.
It really is, isn't it? For creating a tailored piece of audio content from a potentially long resource page.
Okay, so the audio file exists. What's next in their workflow? They don't just publish it straight away, right?
No, definitely not. Step 2 is crucial. Evaluation. This is where the human judgment comes in. They listen to the AI-generated audio and decide if it's actually usable.
Makes sense. What are they listening for specifically? What criteria are they using?
They seem to evaluate on two main things: quality and accuracy.
Okay. Quality first. What does that cover?
Quality is about the technical aspects and the flow. Are there weird repetitions, glitches in the sound, awkward pauses, or maybe one of the AI voices just stopping mid-sentence, stuff like that?
Basically, does it sound reasonably polished and not obviously broken?
Exactly. And then there's accuracy. How well does the generated audio actually reflect what's on the original TLC resource page?
So does it capture the main points correctly? Is it a fair summary?
Right. Does it give a good overview of the topic for that target audience, the faculty? The source uses this interesting phrase to describe the benchmark here. Is it good enough?
Is it good enough? That sounds very practical.
It does. It suggests they're not aiming for absolute perfection or trying to capture every single detail, but rather asking, is this functionally accurate? Is it useful? Does it achieve the goal?
That pragmatic standard probably makes sense if you're trying to generate these summaries for a whole library of resources. Okay, so let's say the audio passes muster. It's deemed good enough. What's step 3?
Step 3 is editing. But the key word here is minimal. The goal is to do very little editing.
Minimal editing. That sounds efficient. So when would they actually make changes?
According to their workflow, they only request edits if there are very specific, concise bits that need tweaking. Maybe a particular section is slightly unclear, or there's a specific part, maybe something the AI hosts even call out, that needs adjusting for flow.
So no major rewrites or restructuring, just minor touch-ups.
Seems that way. And the process described for this minimal editing involves sending the audio file, the .wav file they downloaded, to a media specialist.
Okay, someone with audio skills.
Right. And that person's job is to add the standard intro music, maybe some transitions if needed. Those sounds like the AI often structures it reasonably well, and the standard outro music or sign-off.
So basically topping and tailing it, adding the professional podcast polish.
Exactly. And the workflow also mentions that this process includes creating an SRT file, that's a caption file, right, for accessibility or just having a transcript.
Yeah, subtitles or captions. Good for accessibility. Okay, so the AI does the heavy lifting on content synthesis and the conversational structure. Then a human adds the professional wrapper and ensures accessibility. What happens after editing?
Steps 4 and 5 are publishing and linking. Once the episode is finalized, generated, evaluated, minimally edited, it gets permanently added to whatever platform hosts the TLC To Go podcast series.
So it goes live on their podcast site?
Right. The workflow even mentions a specific person is tasked with uploading that final file and getting the shareable link for the episode.
And then, crucially, how do they connect this new audio version back to the original text resource?
They add a direct link to the new podcast episode on the original TLC resource page it came from.
Closing the loop?
Exactly. And the source even gave us the exact wording they used for that link. It says, take it on the go. Listen to our TLC To Go podcast episode summarizing this resource.
That's super clear. Take it on the go.
Yeah.
Right there. It sounds like a really well thought out, streamlined process for turning their existing assets into a new, accessible format for faculty.
Yeah, and what's really useful about seeing this workflow laid out is that it provides a kind of template, doesn't it? Well, the TLC is applying it to their resources, obviously. But that same basic sequence, generate, evaluate, edit minimally, publish, link, you, the listener, could adapt that same process using Notebook LM with your own materials.
Right. And that really brings us to the big question, the so what, for everyone listening.
Yeah.
How can you, as health sciences faculty, take these capabilities we've discussed, maybe following a similar kind of process, and actually use them in your day-to-day work?
Let's shift focus from just listening to the TLC's summaries to thinking about applying the tool to your own information challenges.
Yeah. That's connected back to those core features of Notebook LM we talked about earlier, but specifically through the lens of a faculty member's workload.
Think about that constant need to process information for lectures, for research, for writing grants.
Yeah, that drinking from the fire hose problem we started with.
Exactly. So imagine you get, I don't know, a batch of new complex research papers in your specific field, or maybe a long, dense report you need to understand quickly. You could upload all of those into a Notebook LM notebook. Then, using its built-in functions, you could ask it to generate a quick summary of the key findings across all those papers. Or maybe create a briefing document synthesizing the main points.
So it's not just summarizing one paper at a time, but looking at the whole collection you give it.
Right. It's asking the AI to understand the collective knowledge in your specific set of documents.
Yeah.
That could dramatically cut down the time it takes just to get an initial handle on new literature for prepping a lecture or just staying current.
That does sound incredibly useful. What about using it more directly for students or teaching?
Well, think about your required course readings. Or maybe you even have transcripts of your lectures.
Okay.
Upload those into Notebook LM. Now, you could potentially ask the tool to generate things for your students, like a detailed study guide based specifically on those readings, or an FAQ list derived right from your lecture transcript.
Wait, generate a study guide or FAQ for my own lecture content automatically?
Potentially, yes. It gives students these structured AI-assisted resources that are perfectly aligned with your material. It's another way for them to review, another way to engage, maybe helps different learning styles, offers flexibility.
That could be a huge help, both for student learning and, frankly, for my own prep time.
Absolutely. And if your field involves, say, historical context, or tracking the progression of research, or maybe timelines of clinical developments, the tool's ability to generate timelines straight from the source text you upload could be really handy for organizing lecture notes, maybe for structuring a research paper outline.
Timelines too. And what about that chat feature you mentioned, the conversational window?
That really changes how you can interact with your own library of documents, doesn't it? Instead of just searching for keywords, you can ask nuanced questions in plain English.
Like what?
Like, find examples in these papers that illustrate concept X, or what did source B say about the methodology in source A, or even just pull out the key statistics related to Y from these reports.
So you could quickly find specific examples for class, or locate that quote you vaguely remember for a paper.
Exactly. Or rapidly cross-reference details across several documents when you're prepping a talk or writing a grant proposal. It's like having a research assistant who's instantly read everything you've given them and can answer specific questions about it.
It really shifts the focus to leveraging AI to understand and access your personal collection of knowledge more deeply.
Precisely. And then, of course, you could mirror what TLC is doing directly. Use that audio overview feature yourself.
For my own students?
Yeah, maybe. Upload a key reading, maybe a particularly complex case study, or even just your condensed notes on a tricky topic. Generate a short audio summary. Offering that alternative audio format could, again, support different learning styles, or just give students a convenient way to review material while they're, commuting or at the gym, just like the TLC project aims to do for faculty.
So whether you're generating text summaries, study guides, FAQs for yourself or for students, or even making quick audio explainers, the core idea is feeding your relevant material into a tool like this, letting the AI process and synthesize it, and getting useful, tailored outputs.
Yeah, it's about letting the tool handle some of that initial heavy lifting of information processing, which ideally frees up your time and mental energy for the stuff AI can't do. The deeper analysis, the critical thinking, the mentoring, the discussions.
This whole deep dive into Notebook LM and seeing how the TLC applied it really highlights how things are changing, doesn't it? How we manage information in academia, how AI tools are starting to intersect with our actual work as faculty.
It feels like tools like Notebook LM are offering a peek into a future where maybe, just maybe, wading through enormous amounts of text isn't the biggest bottleneck anymore.
Right, freeing up that cognitive bandwidth for thinking, for synthesis, for creating new knowledge.
Exactly. And the TLC to Go project is such a concrete example of that potential put into practice, taking valuable knowledge and reshaping it into a format designed for how faculty actually live and work.
It definitely leaves you thinking, though. As these tools get better, and they will, how is this going to fundamentally change how we all interact with information in our fields?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how do we, as faculty, strategically use these capabilities, not just for our own efficiency, but maybe to create genuinely richer, more flexible, more accessible learning experiences for our students too.
Definitely something to keep pondering as this tech evolves. And speaking of accessible learning, if you found this look at the tool and the process interesting, we really do encourage you to hear the end result for yourself.
Yeah, check out the actual output.
Join us for other deep dives, specifically by exploring the other episodes of the TLC to Go podcast. You can hear the audio summaries that were generated using this exact method, pulling insights from TLC resources tailored for faculty like you.
Thanks for tuning in.